Hi, I'm Kira. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about all the books I read in January. I read 10 full books, I started 2, and I think I DNF'd 3. So we're going to talk about all of it. Starting with my DNFs, so we can get the bad out of the way. Like I said, I DNF'd 3 and they were all ARCs, advanced reader copies. Yeah, I've come to the realization that I shouldn't be requesting ARCs unless I know the author and I've liked their previous books, or if the description is something that just really sounds fantastic. But 2 of them were just ones that I was like, oh, that sounds cute, let's request it. I can't do that because then they just start piling up. I had 4 ARCs that I had to do this month and I have 5 for next month. Next month though, 3 out of 5 of them are ones that like I really wanted. The first ARC that I DNF'd was the rom-com Agenda by... Why did I not write the author down for this? Hold on, let me check my ARC list. Okay, you know, I'll put the author right here because I just don't know it. I can't not remember for the life of me. I DNF'd this, I think, after chapter 2. We start out with our main guy proposing to his now ex-girlfriend because she rejected his proposal. She said no. And our main girl overhears that conversation. They go their separate ways, our 2 main characters, and then the guy walks into a store where the girl is at, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna give this guy a makeover to help him win back his ex. Huh? First of all, I was like, no, let's not do that. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna check the reviews on Goodreads for this. So I went on Goodreads and I looked at the reviews, and like almost every single one was like, yeah, it would have been good if the guy wasn't hung up on his ex for 70% of the book. So after that, I decided, no, I'm not gonna read this. I wasn't vibing with the writing style either. For those reasons, I stopped reading after the first few chapters. The next one is called City Lights, Starry Nights. Again, I think I DNF'd this after a couple chapters. Again, an author I hadn't heard of before. It was just on the list of signups for Valentine PR. I think it was that. Don't quote me on it though. And then I started reading it, and it's just the writing just seemed really immature for my liking. So yeah, DNF'd after a couple chapters. And then the last DNF of the month was Compelled by Rachel Van Dyken and I think Patty something. Again, I'll put the authors up here because I don't remember. I gave 5 stars to The Godparent Trap by Rachel Van Dyken, and so when I saw the sign up for Compel, I was like, oh, okay, let's try this. It didn't comprehend in my mind it was paranormal romance until I started reading it, and I was like, okay, it's fine, I'll give it a try, because I've never read paranormal romance. And then the pacing was just really weird, and the writing didn't match her writing in The Godparent Trap, but I think that's because it was with another author as well. I think if you like paranormal romance, you might like it. It was just too weird for me to continue. So I think I got 25% in, and I stopped. Now on to the other books I read. I read 6 physical books and 4 books on Kindle. One of those was an ARC that I did finish. My first read of the year was New Year's Kiss by Lee Matthews. This is about a girl who goes to this ski lodge with her sister to meet up with her grandma, and she realizes like her life's boring, so she creates an end of the year bucket list, because this takes place between December 26th to like January 1st. I did read this on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So she creates an end of the year bucket list, and then she meets this guy in the lobby, and he has a broken leg or something. So he's just sitting there and he's like, I'll help you. And so he helps her make this list, and then they start doing the things together. This is YA, so I feel like that's why I didn't rate it higher. I gave it 2.5 stars. It was cute, it was just really, really immature, and some of the things they said were very cringy. It's really short, really quick read if that's what you're looking for. It was cute, I'll give it that. So that was my first read of this month and this year. Next I read Better Than Fiction by Alexa Martin. I gave this one 3.5 stars. Our main girl, Drew, she inherited this bookstore from her grandma after she passed. And so she's running it. She doesn't read, she doesn't like reading. This author, Jasper, comes into the bookshop for a book signing. This book is set in Denver, and he is writing a book based in Denver. He wants her to show her around, and in exchange, he'll take her out on these like fake dates to show her how great reading can be. There's drama, there's an old lady book club, Recommend. It was really cute. Not my favorite, but definitely had fun reading it. I did a reread of Redeemed by Lauren Asher, which is my all-time favorite book that I've ever read. I have my Bandini Alizor sweatshirt on. I first read this back in May of 2022, I think. And then I did this reread because I was annotating it for my friend Peyton. This is not the copy, I've already sent it to her. This is my signed copy. So I annotated that for her. I started it at the beginning of December and I just finished it at the beginning of January. This is the 4th book in the Dirty Air series about Formula One, so it's a sports romance series. I'm not going to say too much. There's something that happens in the prologue that changes the entire trajectory of the book. My jaw was on the floor when I first read this. This is about Santi and Chloe. Santi is the brother of Maya, who is our main girl in Throttled, the first book in the series. So we see her and Noah in this a lot as well. And basically Santi, something happens and he's exiled himself to a little house. Chloe is looking for her biological father, who happens to live right next to Santi. Yeah, this is my favorite book. I love the characters, I love the story. I could probably talk about this for hours, but I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it. 5-star, infinite stars, whatever you want to say. The first book I read on my Kindle this year was Baggage Claim by Juliana Smith. I don't really remember much what happened, if I'm being honest, but I give it 4.5 stars. I talked about it more in my previous video, my what I read in a week. This girl is going on a trip to a ski lodge, but she's staying at her family's house, and they haven't spoken for a couple of years, I believe. And then she meets this guy when they go to the ski lodge. That's about all I remember. There is a secret that is being kept from the reader and the main guy, but everyone else knows, and I didn't really love that secret because I had figured it out. It was very predictable, but yeah. That's all I have to say about that. And then, oh, here we go. Another book that I talked about in my last video, what I read in a week. I received the arc for Broken by Vanessa Vale and Helen Hart, which is the 3rd and final book in the Billion Heirs series. This is the first book, Scarred, the second one is Flawed, and the third one is Broken. I got the arcs for both Scarred and Flawed, and I gave both of them 3 stars. So it's about 3 brothers who have to stay at their father's farm for 1 year before they are able to inherit $1 billion each because their father passed away, and that was like in his will or whatever. So each book follows a different brother. This one was Chance. He was the brother I was least excited to read a story, and that still holds true. I gave this book 1 star, and to be quite honest, I almost DNF'd it at 30%. But I pushed through because there is a murder mystery throughout the entire series. Like, it starts in book 1 and it ends halfway through book 3, which I think it should have gone to the end. And it was such a disappointment who the murderer was, and like that whole situation. I was not here for it. For it to be dragged out that long, I couldn't. I hated it. This book is second chance romance, which is something I struggle with normally unless it's done well and done right. So I was already skeptical about reading this because I knew it was that, and I knew I probably wouldn't like it. I didn't. The whole reason our main characters broke up in the first place, like in the past, was a huge miscommunication. They thought the other one broke them up. The girl thought the guy broke them up, the guy thought the girl broke them up. It was neither of them, it was their parents. Could have been solved very quickly if they just talked, but no, she up and left right after the breakup. But yeah, they got back together like a 30-40% of the book. I'm sorry, what? No, I don't think so. After we figure out who the murderer was, like at 50%, I just skimmed the rest of it. I could care less about those characters. Like, I didn't like them. I didn't like how he spoke to people and what some of the things he said to the girl. The girl was just there. Overall, I hated this book. Probably one of my least favorite books I've ever read in my entire life. I mean, give it a try if you want. Small town, murder mystery, brothers, billionaires, whatever. Another small town romance with a murder mystery. I read Indigo Ridge by Devney Perry. I give this 4 stars. I loved this. This was a great start to a series. Wynn is the new sheriff of Quincy, Montana, where the Edens family lives, and they like run the town. They have a bunch of businesses, everyone knows who they are. There's a dead body that shows up in Indigo Ridge, where Griffin, our main guy for this book, lives. And so that's how they meet. If I can remember right, there was no third act breakup which was fantastic. And then the murder mystery, I had an idea of who it was, and then it just flew out the window and was completely wrong. But who it actually was so well thought out and put together. Like, that was probably my favorite part of the book, was the murder mystery. And unlike the Billionaire series, I liked how this mystery just stuck to the first book and didn't drag out through the whole series. And I loved both of the characters. Overall, it was a great book. One of my most anticipated reads of the year came out this month, and that is A Long Time Coming by Megan Quinn. This is the third and final book in the Kane Brothers series. I gave this 5 stars. This entire series for me was 5 stars, but this one specifically I think is my favorite Megan Quinn book that I've read out of the 6 or 7 that I've read so far. It was so good. Honestly, one of my new favorite books of all time. So it's about Breaker and his best friend Leah. They've known each other since college for 10 years, but she's about to get married. And like, they were strictly best friends for those 10 years. They had no feelings for each other, and then Breaker realizes he has feelings for her as she's starting to plan her wedding and stuff. Her fiance, a total jerk. Her fiance's mother, monster-in-law. There's a lot of drama. I just loved reading this. Breaker and Leah are also just the biggest nerds ever. So basically me. I felt connected to both of them. Honestly, I might reread this later this year. In this next book, I am doing a reading vlog, so I'm not going to say a ton about it. But that is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. I give this 4 stars. I'm also doing a video about my 20 book list challenge created by this Bookstagram user, where you pick 20 books on your physical TBR and you can't buy any books until you read those. But I have an exception where I can buy my anticipated releases, because I couldn't not do that. And I'm also doing that randomly because I have all 20 books wrapped and I have a jar with numbers. So I pick a number, and whatever number is on my paper is the book I read next. And honestly, I'm glad I'm picking them randomly because I probably would not have picked this first. This would have been one of the last ones I read because it's thick, it's a fantasy, which I don't read fantasy a lot. I knew all the characters already and the basic world building of the series because I had watched the Shadowhunters show years ago when it first aired. I also watched the City of Bones movie. You'll have to wait for my reading vlog of this series to see that. And then I jumped back into the Eden series. I read Juniper Hill. This was 5 stars. I love Knox, I love Memphis, I love Drake. I don't like children like in real life, but for some reason single parent is one of my favorite tropes in books. Memphis is fleeing from her home because there's drama. I'm not gonna say what it is because I don't want to spoil it. So she's fleeing to Montana with her 2-month-old baby Drake. So she's working at the Eloise Inn Hotel, and Knox works in the hotel's restaurant. Memphis is also staying in Knox's like garage loft because there's nowhere else to stay. So forced proximity, small town, single parent, a lot of tropes, a lot of my favorite tropes. I loved every second of it. As I'm sure a lot of you know, Final Offer by Lauren Asher was released yesterday when I'm filming this, January 31st. I started my reread for The Dreamland Billionaires. Started with the fine print, 5 stars. It's been almost a year since I first read it, so I wanted to go back and reread and see all the little moments of Cal that we got so I could start building an image of him in my head again. I am filming a reading vlog for this series of my reread and my first read of Final Offer. So this is about 3 brothers, Rowan, Declan, and Cal, and their grandfather just passed, and in his will they have to do a certain thing in order to inherit their portion of his company, and his company is like Disney. This is set in Dreamland, which is basically Disneyland. I'm a huge Disney girl, so obviously I loved this. Anything set in a theme park, I love. Another good theme park book is All Downhill With You by Julie Olivia. Rowan's task is he has to work as the director of Dreamland for 6 months and like do something big. He has to make a new ride or he has to do something like that. He meets Zara, who is our main girl in this book, and she wanted to be a creator. She was working with Brady, their grandfather, on a new ride, but her then boyfriend stole the idea, so she didn't make it into the creator program. But while she's drunk, she sends in a form that's like critiquing that ride that she was supposed to get credit for but didn't. And Rowan's like, yeah, let's put her on the team. So they work together to create something for Rowan to be able to get his inheritance. And then I started but did not finish Terms and Conditions, my reread of it. Again, 5 stars. This one's about Declan, the oldest brother. Rowan was the youngest brother. His task in order to inherit his portion of the company is to get married and have a child. extreme, yeah, but you know what? Made a good book. So his assistant Iris sets him up with a fiance, but he ruins it, and so Iris is like, okay, I'll step in then. So they get married. So this is Marriage of Convenience. Terms and conditions, I only got 300 pages done out of the 460. Also, Iris and Cal are besties, so we get a lot more of him in this book than we did in the fine print. Which then leads me to Final Offer, the last book in the Dreamland Billionaires series. I only got to chapter 14, 130 pages in. I really thought I was gonna get this whole thing done yesterday. Who was gonna tell me that wasn't gonna happen? Because I had it in my mind I was. No, absolutely not. This one's about Cal and Alana. The task Cal has to complete is going to the family's lake house in Lake Wisteria and staying there for summer, cleaning it up, and getting it ready to sell at the end of the year. But what he doesn't know is that Alana, his ex-girlfriend, is also on the deed for the lake house, and she doesn't want to sell it. So this is second chance romance, and if you remember me saying earlier I don't really like second chance romance, this is one that I love. I wasn't even worried about it because it was Lauren Asher. I knew I was gonna love it. This is definitely gonna get 5 stars. I can just tell you that now. There is a surprise trope, like in the first chapter, that wasn't told to us before we started reading. Jaw on the floor. Again, I'm filming my reaction to this, like as I'm reading it, so that vlog will hopefully be up within the next week. I'm really loving it so far. Those are all the books I read in January. I hope you enjoyed hearing me talk about all these books, and I hope you get a couple of recommendations from it, or maybe you want to stay away from a couple based on what I said. I'll see you in the next video, I guess.